that last story was crazy. I have a couple other really good ones, but one of the topics that I wanted to get into today, and I had to get into today, because of the insane amount of comments. Like, we haven't had a video yet that's had this many comments as the Idaho 4. Okay, the Moscow, Idaho murders. And
it's getting a lot of attention online.
It is getting a ton of attention online. Like, there are channels out there that literally only cover this topic, and that's it. And so that video that we created, I was looking for a true crime to do. I just happened to come upon it, you know, and I was maybe 2 or 3 hours of looking into it when we made that video. Like, the amount of information I had on it when I was making that was so little. Like, that is literally just... that was just the opening of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
I heard about it when it happened and had been following it loosely, but I didn't know what we know now.
Yeah. What we know now is insane. So, we're going to keep talking about this on the pre-recorded videos, because I feel like most people really like the pre-recorded videos and topics. That gives them the ability to be able to respond at their own time. If you can't come and join us on live stream is really where we've done all of our digging into it, watching other content creators, looking stuff up, and talking through some of the possibilities of the Idaho 4 murders. You know what I mean? And so we posted that video, and to be honest with you, that was before vacation. I don't even remember what my opinion was on it at the end.
Oh, you thought that he could be innocent.
I don't think I did at that time.
The first video we made, at the end of that, we both were in agreement that we thought that he was most likely guilty, and we were nervous he was going to get off because of the issues with the investigation and everything
that's the video
we were
I'm
seeing.
talking about.
Now, after that, before we went on vacation and we had been doing digging on live stream, it changed to we think he could be innocent.
Yeah. No, okay. So, this is where I'll go with it. My plan is here is to leave the viewer, you guys, with a bunch of open-ended questions, because I think where we're at with this thing currently is the media has done such a good job of painting a picture that people are split down the middle.
Yep.
You either believe and have an emotional investment in Bryan Kohberger being guilty, or you believe and you have an emotional investment in him being innocent, okay? And I think both of those are wrong. So if you're watching this and you are either one of those, I think you're looking at this thing wrong. I think the most important thing to be is looking at any situation with an open mind, okay? So I heard a few different comments come on there. One of them was, I don't even understand how you could think that he could be innocent because of the cell phone data, the DNA, and the car, okay? Pictures of the vehicle. And there's been some new videos that have come out with that too, which don't get me started on that. So I figured we'd talk at least about those, just do a little bit of a deeper into those three topics here. And kind of see where we come out with it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
All right. And one thing for you guys to know as a disclaimer that we said in the beginning of the podcast, if you're not watching the long edit version, is, we are not experts. And I never want to take the position of being an expert, at least until we get to, a full time, where we're doing this full time, and I can actually invest the same amount of hours that I invest in other projects and income and work and things like that into things like this, okay? Which would be awesome if we can get there eventually, but we aren't there currently. So, we look at more of the social aspects and the ideas and the possibilities of the crime and the way that it was handled.
The implications of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So one thing I want to touch on is the DNA, okay? So if you're watching this and you're still somebody who is bought in on this DNA, is the touch DNA, I have a couple statements here that are either taken from professionals or off of institute websites like colleges, you know, and it talks about touch DNA. So the DNA that was on the knife sheath is touch DNA. That is very, 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 very different than like a blood drop or a bodily fluid, spit, anything that can come out of a body.
A literal piece of your body.
That is very different. Here it is. So touch DNA, also known as trace DNA, is a forensic method for analyzing DNA left at a scene of a crime. It is called touch DNA because it only requires a very small sample. For example, the skin cells left on an object after it has been touched or casually handed, or from footprints. So they're talking skin cells here. And to give you guys an understanding of exactly how that can work, and this is totally plausible, and one thing we always say is don't believe us. I don't want you to believe me. I want the information that we bring to the table here to be like a carrot, and you guys go and make sure that we aren't full of it on here, you know, and if we are, please leave a comment, let us know how. I'd love to talk about it. But where I'm going with this is touch DNA can be transferred. Like, let's say I handed you guys a marker or whatever. We'll go with a marker, okay? And you take that marker and you put it in your car, you drive to work, you use that marker and you hand it to somebody else, and that person that you handed it to commits a crime, it falls out of their pocket and is left on the scene. My DNA can be there through that original touch DNA. Now, does that sound reliable?
No.
I'm not even taking into account the case of Bryan Kohberger being guilty or not. I'm just simply asking, does that sound reliable?
It sounds incredible that we have technology that can literally get DNA from skin cells, like a single freaking skin cell on something.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, it's like anybody's DNA could be on just about anything. Then you think about germs and the way germs are passed and spread all over the U.S.
This
so
was
quickly.
a college town.
People are touching things and other people are touching them. Like, you just don't know how that DNA got there. So it's not.
You're dealing with classrooms.
But when you think of crime, you think of DNA like the smoking gun. Like, their DNA is at the scene.
Right.
Well, when it comes to touch DNA, it's not necessarily a smoking gun. It can be something for you to look into it more. But it doesn't mean that doesn't mean you can say for sure that person was there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so here's a statement from somebody that is a lawyer in military law, like NCIS type stuff. They said touch DNA is almost a pseudoscience. It takes samples that contain a mixture of DNA from surfaces touched by an unknown number of people and makes a guess as to the probability that a criminal suspect's DNA is among the haystack of unknowns the lab is examining.
Oh.
Yeah, and that is an official of the court, and this is how they see touch DNA as when going into the courtroom. Now, this statement doesn't have anything to do with this case. This is just simply about touch DNA.
I'm really curious what their percentage came out to be, that it was this percent likely that it's his DNA. Because what if it only has to be above 50% and say it's like 55% could be his DNA?
I agree, and it's still not shared how at all.
Because there could be genetic similarities to other people. Like, you could be 70% similar DNA to somebody, and you don't even know who the hell they are.
They've said that it's in the high 90s% of likelihood, but Nobody has seen that. The defense still hasn't. They haven't came forward with that, so we just don't know yet right now.
And that still doesn't place him at the crime scene because it could have been from someone else's hand that he touched.
I agree. It still doesn't place him at the crime scene. Correct. Now,
and he was a teacher at a university in this town.
That's what I was getting at. Is you're dealing. I can't think of another type of town where touch DNA would be spread more than at a college campus with desks, papers, pencils, utensils, people touching each other, high fives, sinks, door handles, like
toilets, like anything.
Yeah, exactly. So here is another statement. So touch DNA is touch or transfer DNA, reliable evidence of guilt. In parentheses, my argument is no, and as military defense lawyers, this is our position at a court-martial trial held under the UCMJ. So yeah, unreliable.
So they do not consider it reliable
in circumstances. So that they leaned, and when I say they, I'm talking about mainstream media and the overwhelming storyline that they're all running with him being already guilty, right? And that is not a smoking gun anymore. That no longer makes me feel confident they have him placed at the scene of the crime.
Agreed.
It doesn't. It just doesn't.
I feel like there's some people who will overlook that and be like, but it's DNA, and it was right by her body. Like,
that doesn't mean anything.
That is a smoking gun. Like, that, I feel like that will just convince a lot of people, and they won't care about those details.
Right. So, okay. So the knife sheath is touch DNA. Now, you know that Bryan Kohberger is a vegan?
Yeah.
What's the likelihood that he keeps around leather items?
Low. Very low.
Very low. That was a leather knife sheath. A very thick leather knife sheath. Military grade with a military stamp. He's not military. It's not very fitting.
Yeah, he's just a criminology student. He's like a nerd.
Right. Okay.
Was he ever into hunting or anything like that in his life? I don't think he was.
I gotta be honest, I haven't looked into that, but I don't think so, based on anything and everything that I've read so far. You know, the first time we covered this, I had a few hours of reading. I probably have 10 times that now, okay, with everything that we've looked into. So, these things don't add up to me. They don't add up. Now, one statement I do want to make, okay? Because there's this overwhelming view from content creators that are out there saying that Bryan Kohberger is guilty, that the car, the touch DNA, and the cell phone pings, this is a slam dunk case 100%, okay? When I'm refuting these ideas, I am not coming out saying that that the police officers planted this thing. I don't think that needs to be said at all. I wouldn't even go down that direction because, yes, if somebody is coming out with no evidence at all saying that the police planted this thing, that is conspiracy. When you're looking at these topics and just questioning them for what they are, that is not conspiracy. If anything, the conspiracy would be expecting people not to take in every piece of information. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that in any situation, there's no such thing as too much information. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. There is no such thing. So
yeah, because you can rule it out. Like you look into it and you rule it out. Or you decide this is very important information.
Absolutely. And information that might have been important on day 1 won't be important on day 30.
And then something can be overlooked.
Exactly. Yep. And will become important later. But all of it's important. Even the information that's not important. You know, a lack of information can still be important. You know what I mean? So, so going down this knife sheath, to me, that doesn't feel like a smoking gun, okay? And there's a reason why the prosecution legally has come to court saying that, hey, we don't want you guys to include this in the case. We only wanted it for the warrant on Bryan Kohberger because we believe that if we get this warrant, we are going to find evidence in his car and in his home. Well, they were given the warrant, okay?
Yep.
They searched his car, they searched his home, and they found nothing.
What I really want to know is, in order to see if a DNA is a match for a suspect, they have to first become a suspect, right?
Yeah.
So
I wasn't even going
how?
to go into that this time.
How?
Yeah, I wasn't even going to go into that this time.
How did he even become a suspect? How did he even get on the police's radar?
I hear you. I just think we should dig into that another time because that's like a whole bunch of other topics. But I agree with you. I'm just going to try and stay on the 3 topics we have here. Otherwise, this will go forever. But if you're interested in questions like that, I really suggest you check out our live streams. Almost all of them have a little bit of the Idaho 4 in them. So, all right.
Lately.
So, yep, lately. So that goes nicely into the car, okay? They got the search warrant from the knife sheath, and they believed they were going to find all kinds of stuff in the car. Mainstream media kept making comments that, hey, you know, it's going to be a petri dish of DNA. We know it's going to be in there, okay? Well, they searched it. They found none. Nothing. Zero. Nothing, okay? And just continuing down that same train of thought. Then your next obvious question should be, okay, then he probably cleaned it, right? 3 weeks went by. He drove across country.
They saw him cleaning it.
We saw him cleaning his car. Who knows what kind of cleaning he did in his apartment, what he did with his clothes. Except cars are one of the most porous and creviced and gaps and holes and everything, things
Fibers.
out there in the world.
Tiny little fibers.
Right.
Yep.
That if he cleaned it, they would have found residue of cleaning solvents and solutions. Did they find that in his home or car? No.
Because they also tested for that.
They tested for it, and they did not find any. So, okay, so let's stick to this car thing,
So
okay?
the cleaning thing is irrelevant at this point, because people keep talking about his rubber gloves cleaning his car. It's irrelevant at this point. He didn't clean it to get rid of DNA.
No, he was probably vacuuming it and picking up, like, dirt and grime and nastiness on the floor.
Like any normal person.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're using things like Windex to clean your windows, sometimes that irritates people. Like, I don't feel weird about the gloves.
Well, it could also just be like, he could be a germphobe. He could get contact dermatitis like I do. I get irritations on my hands from cleaners, and I wear gloves a lot of times when I touch any chemicals at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just literally going shopping at a store, the dust on things, people don't even realize, like, that gives me contact dermatitis. So, like, it could be any reason. It doesn't have to be nefarious that he wore gloves to clean his car.
I agree. And also, I've heard a couple
nothing.
people bring up the topic of, well, he was up super late at night, you know, that night with his phone turning on and off, and the night that he was throwing trash away. You're dealing with a college student.
Yeah, so were all the victims. They were all up super late, too.
Exactly.
They just got home, like, not that long before it happened.
Exactly. So that is not a good example. It's not that, shadows go bump in the night, so only people that are up late. Like, I can't tell you how many times in a week I'm up until 3 or 4 a.m. So I just don't see that as being weird, okay? So let's go back to how could he have done it, okay? Because I always like to play mental gymnastics to figure out ways. Let's assume that Bryan had the experience, he had the sociopathic evolution, serial killer evolution, to the point where he was able to mentally, physically, and capably end these 4 people in the very short time frame that he had, okay?
Because it's a 10-minute window, right?
Yep.
It's 10 minutes, I think, yeah.
So, how could he have done it then with the car? I assume there's one of 2 ways. Either he wasn't there with his car, and they are mistaken with the photo, they are mistaken with all these other things. And I gotta say, by the way, if you guys don't know this, you know how many vehicles? Because when we talked about this last recorded video, I think I'm pretty sure I said, like, how many Hyundai Elantras are like looking vehicles where they're in the area. I got my answer. 22,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I was making the comment like, there can't be that many. Right. That is a lot of vehicles, okay? All white, all like or looking like Hyundai Elantras, okay? But so let's go through the mental gymnastics, how this could have happened. I can only think of it one of two ways. He wasn't there with his car, okay, which would make the video and all that other stuff not mean anything of the photo of the vehicle. Or two, the only other way that this could have happened is him going in, having clothes on, double layer of clothing, okay? Doing this in this short time frame, controlling expertly 4 people in just the way that he wanted to. Get out of there, get back to wherever he was going to his car. He would have to take literally everything off, and it would have to be 100% skin coverage. I would also assume if you're going to cover your skin, you're also going to cover your eyebrows and eyes, which, remember the bushy eyebrows thing. So for me, that this idea doesn't work, but we can just go down that, okay? He would have to take all that off and likely get rid of it before entering the vehicle.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And they would have had to search everywhere there.
Or like you said, have
Or
like a hazmat suit.
it.
Have a hazmat suit in the car. Throw that on before you get in the car with the blood still on you and everything. And you're like,
yeah,
like you'd have to totally encapsulate
you
your
would
body.
either have to take everything off or cover your body completely to somewhere that's safe. Okay, I keep hearing this idea out there where, and this is the negative mental gymnastics that people who have an emotional need for him to be guilty out there, they keep saying things like, okay, obviously there's ways to do this where there's not going to be DNA. You just cover your car in plastic. What? Think about that. Think about all the spaces that you use and the things that the surfaces you touch when driving your car, and you're going to cover each thing in plastic. You're talking your gas pedal. Gas pedals are really close to the floor, by the way. Your brake pedal. You're talking your shift handle. Okay. Now think of at the front windshield.
It would take so much time.
The gap where the air comes out. I don't think people are taking into account
the air filters.
Yes. He couldn't just cover his seat, the center console, the shifter, the steering wheel, and the pedals. He could not do that, okay? When you're getting in and out of a car, there's a bunch of airflow going on, and we already have been told that this was insanely brutal. There was DNA and blood everywhere, okay? Well, with any air movement, the AC on, the windows down, or cracked, that's going to move the DNA around in the vehicle.
Yeah, and
that
it's
is
not
going to
like
move it around. And think of that little shaft up on, there's the front windshield that connects you to the side window here. Those are all crevices in there. Where the air comes out down in the dash. Crevices in there. The air filter is a great example. That's something you can't even see that would be filtering that through. It's just not possible. You would have to cover the roof with plastic. You would have to cover every single area with plastic. The windshield, you would have to make sure that there was no filtration being done on your car, like everything.
And if you think that's insane, like he could have just thrown plastic wrap on his seat and the gear shifter, and like he would have been fine. There was so much blood. Like, so much, and we're talking about touch DNA, and you think that just covering a few things in the car with plastic wrap, with blood all over you, like, we're talking about science that's so good, it can pick up skin cells, like single or little tiny group of skin cells. And identify it with a person, yeah. Yes, like, it's not that simple.
This just isn't likely. This isn't a likely possibility here, okay? So, again, this doesn't lean towards slam dunk. And I want you guys to understand something here. I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger isn't guilty. I'm not saying that Bryan Kohberger is innocent or guilty. What I'm saying is the current storyline that is being pushed is not possible, in my opinion.
It doesn't make sense.
But I'm going to leave these questions open-ended so you guys can tell me, please, help me figure it out, because I would love to know these things, because these just aren't likely. Now let's go to the cell phone tower pings. So many people lean on this, okay? And this is one area that I actually have some experience in, working directly with cell phone towers and the things that they do. Now, there is, and we talked about this in the other video, but I just want to put more emphasis on this, okay? There's one cell phone tower in the area, okay? Most people know that a cell phone tower can triangulate a location, but it takes 3, okay?
At least to be
no, 3 is sufficient. Three is enough to be sufficient.
Yeah, but I actually just read a case that there were 4, and they could literally pinpoint every move.
Yeah, 3 can get it down to a matter of feet. I'm sure 4 could give you extra, but 3 is good enough because of how the cell phone tower works. So there's a post, and there's these small cells around it, and they can tell what direction it's coming from. Now there's only one cell phone tower here, okay? So basically that cell phone tower covers 27 miles or something like that. So in one direction of it, he could have been attached to any of those micro cells that are on the tower and be anywhere in that area. There is no way to know.
So you're saying basically you have say you have the tower, and then you have all these little mini cells, and they go in one direction, straight
they
line
shoot
that
out
way,
for a 360.
and maybe there's a little bit of a radius for that one that's going that way. So they could all they know is he was in a 27-mile radius going that way.
Yes. Well, the whole tower covers a 27-mile radius. This town is only 2 miles by 3 miles, so he could have been outside of town. He could have been anywhere on whatever side that cell phone tower is. It doesn't matter. It's not accurate, okay? It is not accurate. That doesn't help anything. He could be, what's 1/3 of 27 miles? What is that, 7? So he could have been anywhere in an 8-mile range in that cell tower. And there's only one. If you add a second one, that's still not enough to pinpoint somebody. That's enough to pinpoint somebody down to within a 1 to 3 mile range, okay? With 3 of them, that's enough to pinpoint somebody normally down to a matter of, 10, 20, 50 feet, whatever. But this isn't enough. This is not a smoking gun.
No. Yeah.
Not at all. No,
because there's
there's
such room for error. You can only tell they're within this mile radius, maybe.
Essentially, all you can tell is he's connected to that tower, and his phone itself is pinging, which apps run in the background of our phones at all time. All we see is that it's using service here, in the same way as the rest of the town is. It's a nothing burger. This is not good evidence. And we're about to cover another story here about them just figuring out that 13-year-old serial killer crime. What was it called? What's that beach called? Gilgo Beach. Okay, now that is phenomenal evidence.
Oh yeah,
the circumstantial evidence and the actual hard evidence, DNA evidence. Dude, that's phenomenal. That's the type of thing you want to see when you see a slam dunk case.
Case closed.
That is slam dunk.
You're the guy.
So I don't understand why people are trying to suggest that the Bryan Kohberger case is such a slam dunk. It's not at all. It's not even a little bit of a slam dunk. There's nothing here that puts him there. There is no connection with him and the victims. There isn't any of that going on. None of it. It's insane.
It is absolutely crazy. I see people get up in their feelings when you start questioning it, and they're like, well, how can you think that because of this and this, the exact things you're saying? And you can sit there and argue with them, and they just kind of say the same thing. Well, no, this and this and this on, this. And I'm like, you're saying the same thing over and over. It doesn't change the reality that that is not the smoking gun. That is not anything really. Like, I feel like all of these things together would be something that an investigator would go, oh, we should look more into that person.
Yeah. But I want it to be open. I want you guys to be able to tell us, is this a smoking gun? After hearing what we've covered. And again, like I always say, do not believe us. Go look into this, okay? Please go look into these 3 topics and figure it out for yourself and come back and let me know what's going on here, because I want to understand, okay? And do you feel like there's good evidence here one way or the other? Do you feel like Kohberger is innocent or guilty? And one other question I have for you is, do you feel like you have an emotional need for him to be one way or the other? Because I think it's very important not to get caught up on either one here. And I'm trying really hard to make sure that everything's going to be fine. I get it. If he's guilty, he's guilty. More than likely, I think if he's guilty, then somebody else was involved. There's more to this, and help us understand exactly what that is. If he's innocent, my first question is, then who did it?
Yeah, that's the most important thing to me.
I want them off the street.
Is who did it? Like, do we have the right guy? Is there a murderer still out on the streets?
Yeah.
Is a murderer about to get off because of a botched investigation? Like, we don't want that error. We don't want that to be the case. Like, you don't want a murderer on the streets who's capable of going in a college kid's house and murdering 4 people brutally by knife.
With such brutal efficiency in up-close quarter combat with a bladed weapon. That is
alone,
scary.
4 people.
Well, I don't think it was done alone. I don't think there's any way that one person could have done this.
I don't think so either.
I think that maybe, I just suggest, do you really think there's people out there that are so BA they can enter a house with 6 people against 1 and control 4 of them with such precision in the way that it was done? Do you really feel like there's average people out there just walking around that can do that?
And they're in groups of 2, the people that they killed.
Yeah.
They're not alone. Like,
yep.
And it's in one house with 6 people. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think. And the only way I think someone could do that is if they had extensive military training.
That's what I was going to ask.
Which is a whole nother thing.
If you think that there are people out there walking around that have the capability of doing this, how do you think they learned to do it? Is my other question. How do you think they learned that ability to be able to do that? And then you also got to take into account here, it's not only that they know how to do that, but they have enough experience doing that to do it with the level of efficiency that it was done at, okay? Serial killers in all of history, you can look back, evolve. Everything escalates, okay? This is like the World Series of a killer.
Oh, yeah.
Right off the rip. Do we think somebody that's never done anything before could do this?
Yeah, that many people control the scene the way they did and leave next to no evidence.
Whoever did this was a BA. There's no doubt about that when it comes to, fighting the scary stuff. I don't mean that in a positive light. I mean that in combat situations,
They're
okay?
like a natural-born killer.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Whoever it was that.
Yep. They're a scary, scary person.
I just suggest you never let videos like this one you're watching here sway your opinion. Use any of the information that you hear as a carrot to go look.
And
go
form
start
your
looking.
own.
Yeah. Go start looking on your own. Try and find situations where things like what we're being told on here has happened before, because there's one thing with humans is we always repeat ourselves. History repeats ourselves. I can't think of another situation where there's anything remotely close to this.
No, someone just off the rip does something like this?
With such precision and expertise, unless there's more to it and things were botched and whatever, okay, which we see time and time again. But still, man.
Yeah, we want to know what you guys think about this. Like, it's been a really We've been diving deep into it.
It's been an emotional roller coaster.
And yeah, it's been emotional.
Yep. And I don't know which way I lean. The one thing that I can commit to is the current storyline is not possible. That's what I believe.
I believe it too.
I don't know what the real storyline is. I hope we find out. I just know the current one that we're getting from most of the mainstream channels be possible.
Being sold.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting still. We're seeing Kohberger being vilified. A lot of the bigger channels still show him in things like Orange, even though he hasn't been in Orange in months in court, to portray this person as being
a criminal.
As being separate from society. So it's really important to just pay attention to those things. But I want your input. I would love your input.
Yeah, for sure.
And to talk about it, chop it up in the comments. So.
And live stream, because we're going to be talking about this on live stream.
No, come join us in the live stream, and we'll chop it up in there. So, come join us.